Okay, so we have a consumer advocate who's like, without government standards, right, manufacturers are misleading or deceiving by how they label their products. For example, they may say it's fresh orange juice, but it's made from water and flavor enhancers. That's gross. Yeah.
It doesn't say without government. Under the current, oh, he does. Okay, the current absence.
Current absence. Okay, cool. It's good to be.
Yeah, clean something up for me there.
Okay, no, that's good. Okay, so for example, fresh orange juice could be misleading, since fresh is applied to food products is commonly understood to mean pure and unprocessed. Labeling that orange juice as fresh is unquestionably deceptive. Well, if fresh is commonly understood to mean pure and unprocessed, then that makes sense. Manufacturer, using words somewhat differently than they are commonly used is not deceptive. Oh. Wait. So what is the manufacturer like accepting when the manufacturer says that? The manufacturer is accepting that's a common usage, right? Like, oh, using words somewhat differently than they are commonly used is not deceptive. So they accept that maybe that is the common usage. After all, fresh can also mean never frozen. Okay, also, in addition, right? We cannot be faulted for failing to, this is horrible. Failing to comply with standards that have not been officially formulated. When the government sets clear standards pertaining to product labeling, we will certainly comply with them. Oh, that's so noble of you. On the basis of their statements above, the consumer advocate and the manufacturer are committed to disagreeing about the truth of which one of the following statements. This is called a disagree question, but it falls under the category of inference or strengthen. Which one? This is inference. It's top down. You're saying, hey, given what each of these individuals said, what do they have to essentially believe, and then where do they disagree? So as you go through these answer choices, one thing you can do is you can ask yourself, well, what does the first person think of A? What does the second person think of A? And you need an answer where one person agrees with the claim and the other person disagrees with the claim. So for A, in the absence of government standards, we did talk about that, common understanding is the arbiter of deceptive labeling practices. What would the consumer advocate say?
Just yes.
The consumer advocate would say yes. It is. That's how you decide whether it's deceptive. And the manufacturer would say common usage is not how you decide. I agree that's common usage, but that doesn't matter. So this is something that they disagree on because one party would agree with the claim and the other party would disagree with the claim. If they both disagree with the claim or they both agree with the claim, then it's wrong. So B, truthful labeling practices that reflect common standards of usage can be established by the government. They would probably both agree with that claim. And therefore it's wrong. C, the term fresh, when it is applied to food products, is commonly understood to mean pure and unprocessed. They would probably both agree with that claim. Yes, that's the common understanding. Is this the answer you chose? Yeah. So you were thinking that the manufacturer didn't agree with the common usage.
Right, I think I skipped over the also mean.
Yes, you have the also and you have the first sentence. Yeah, okay. So they both agree, which makes it wrong. D, terms that apply to natural foods can be truthfully applied to packaged foods. I don't know where packaged foods comes in here. I mean, orange juice is packaged, but they don't ever talk about this explicitly. Clear government standards for labeling food products will ensure truthful labeling practices. What do you guys think of that?
They would both agree on that?
They probably both agree. I don't know what the consumer advocate would think if they think that would ensure it, but at that point it's still wrong because you just don't know what they think. So, okay, cool. Let's go to 16 really quick since we're on it. Which one of the following principles, if established, would contribute most to the defense of the manufacturer's position against that of the consumer advocate? What type of question is this? Strengthen. So you're going to strengthen who? The manufacturer. And if you're going to strengthen the manufacturer, you're ultimately strengthening what?
Conclusion.
The conclusion. And so what's the conclusion of the manufacturer?
It's okay to like use fresh when it's not fresh.
Yeah, like we're not being deceptive by using less common usage.
They're not
right?
breaking the law. They're saying they're not breaking the law.
Did they talk about the law?
Well, we cannot be faulted for failing to comply with standards.
Well,
or
so
not beneficially
the
for
problem I have with that, We cannot be faulted, okay, for failing to comply with standards that have not been officially formulated. Okay. We haven't, there is no law. We haven't broken the law because there is no law. Sure. Yeah, okay. I'm cool with that. That seems like a subsidiary conclusion. I feel like the main conclusion is we're not deceptive, and that's what I'm going to focus on first. But yeah, that's also part of the argument. Okay, so A, in the absence of government definitions for terms used in producing in product labeling, common standards of understanding alone should apply. Why are you guys shaking your heads?
Support the consumer.
That supports the consumer advocate, right? So half your challenge here is just making sure you know what you're strengthening. Okay, so that's weakens the manufacturer. B, government standards for truthful labeling should always be designated to reflect common standards of understanding. Do we know what the government standards should be?
No.
No. And if anything, this would go against the manufacturer who's like, we don't care about common standards or common usage. C, people should be free, to the extent that it is legal to do so, to exploit their advantages, the ambiguity and vagueness in language. Oh, exploit to their advantages the inherent ambiguity and vagueness in language. If this were true, would that help the manufacturer? Yeah, so keep this open. D, when government standards and common standards for truthful labeling are incompatible with each other, the government standards should always take precedence. It's not even really applicable here because we don't have government standards in place. E, in their interpretation of language, consumers should never presume that vagueness indicates an attempt to deceive on the part of manufacturers unless those manufacturers would reap large benefits from successful deception. Even if you didn't like, even if you were okay, I guess even if you liked the first part of this answer, the last part creates this big escape hatch, right? And for all we know, manufacturers do reap large benefits from successful deception, and therefore this whole answer gets thrown out the window, right? Because it's like, unless, as like, I consider these unless clauses as escape hatches, because a lot of times they make the answer like meaningless, because you don't know whether that's true, and then you don't know if the answer is triggered or not. And if it's not triggered, then it's like, oh, well, this whole thing goes out the window. Right, like if it didn't have the unless, if it just said, consumers should never presume that vagueness indicates an attempt to deceive on the part of manufacturers, then maybe that would strengthen the argument somewhat, right? Because it'd be like, you're not deceptive. Don't presume that they're deceptive. But even then, it's not a great answer. But the unless just throws it out entirely. Okay.